Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gents. My name is Miguel, aka Mighty Migs, and I'm your host for this podcast episode for Passion for Acting. And it is a great pleasure for me and the rest of you to actually have my good friend and still consider my acting coach to this day, Daniel Sassen. How are you, good sir?
I'm very good, thanks, Migs.
Okay, well, good to hear. But we go further ahead. I'd like to mention that this episode is actually sponsored by Sydney Actors Association. So please visit this Instagram page just right here. And if you're interested in acting, whether you're beginning or if you're actually an actor who's had a lot of experience already and you're looking to sharpen your craft, this may be the right course for you. So tell them that Mighty Migs from Passion for Acting podcast has sent you. But without further ado, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. And I'd like to welcome on board Mr. Daniel Sassen, aka Daniel San. Give us an
Thank you very much, Migs, and thank you very much for having me on. This is very exciting.
Well, it's a great pleasure. You know what? This is making my day. But give us an introduction about yourself, good sir.
Well, let's see. Hi, I'm Daniel Sassen. I'm represented by Sydney Talent Company, have been for a very long time. I myself got into acting rather late in life. I had no idea what I was going to do when I was leaving high school. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, we should go into acting together." In which case I was like, "Yeah, I didn't know that that could be a job. Why not? Let's do it." And then a few months later he said, "I don't think I'm going to do it." But I'd already thought, you know what? I'm on the way. Let's see what happens. Was We're talking 25 plus years later, and here I am still doing it. So something went right.
Oh, look, yeah. You know what? You're a good role model for actors just like myself and a few
Oh.
others who I know. It is a great pleasure to have you, like, mentoring us as well. Even though we don't keep in contact as usual, it feels like that the last time I saw you was just last week.
Mixed flattery will get you everywhere. Thank you very much.
Flattery and sincerity come in.
Yeah, that's what I've always liked about you.
Oh well, you've been a good tool in my shed, like in my acting life as well, even in my personal life. I appreciate that. So tell us about you as an actor first. I mean, what aside from what inspires you to keep going as an actor?
Honestly, I will say the thing that inspired me originally when I was young and hungry was the idea of just proving myself and getting out there and showing that I could do it. And then later in life, I had kids, life got very busy, and I tried to pull away from it. And I tried to put it behind me. I was said, okay, I'm not going to do acting anymore. I'm not going to blah, blah, blah. You know, you've heard that story before. And then years later, uh, I think John Clare actually popped up out of the blue. I hadn't seen him for a while. And he looked at me and he just said, "How can you do that? How can you just put it aside? It's a part of you." And I thought to myself, he's right. It's there. No matter what, you can't just put it aside. It's a passion. It's not just a passion. It's a piece of me, this creativity. And even though as a father, my creativity went a lot into my kids and how do I get them to creatively eat this meal that I've just made for them and they don't want it? How do I creatively make sure that they get enough exercise without injuring themselves and all of that sort of stuff? But along the way, I began talking to my little girl when she got old enough about acting. She was very interested in what it was that Daddy did other than being around and cooking and all of that stuff. And the more I spoke about it, the more I remembered all those lessons that I taught with you and all the other people. I would nearly said kids, but you weren't kids. All the other wonderful actors in the classes, and that passion just relit straight away, almost like a match to a gas stove. Just there it was again after all these years of sort of tamping it down and putting it aside. And I realized everything was still there. I began watching movies again in a way where I could critically take a look at the camera angles, lighting, the sound, the choreography, and also the choices that the actors were making, it all just sort of came flooding back. And then my little girl became really interested in wanting to audition for things, and I was hesitant about that because I know the amount of disappointment that comes for not getting the audition. And so I thought to myself, well, if she's really going to go down that path, she needs someone in her corner. She needs somebody who can sort of help her navigate the business because when I first came in, I didn't know anybody, so it was a lot of trial and error. So I gave John Clare a call and I said, look, I'm ready to do some auditions again. And before I knew it, there were auditions. And maybe the first two, I was very rusty. By the third one, though, I'd knocked off the rust. Things had started coming back. I was still sort of struggling to find the time to do the auditions. And then, before you know it, lockdown happened with COVID. And the biggest thing that happened for me was they said, okay, you can audition from home. And that was game changing because I had the skills. I can film, I can edit, I can make sure that I put the files down to a nice manageable size. I can do lighting, everything that was needed. And I also, I don't know, I guess that opened the door, and before I knew it, I had a couple of jobs. And I stepped on set, and it was like I'd never left. So the last professional set I'd stepped on was 10 years ago. Was the last ad I did. And I walked onto the set for Target and looked around, and just there was no nervousness, there was just excitement. And I was back. So, which was quite the revelation for me.
And I remember that time, like, before you properly came back, I said, Coach, you got to come back because, like, I agree with Mr. Lee himself that, your creativity, your acting creativity is just like a rib. I mean, without your rib, you're not whole, so,
You're not wrong there. And the saddest part about that is where I'm based in New South Wales. For the longest time, there was just no support from the government, certainly, and also no support from people, it felt like, around me for anything creative. This was it felt, and it still does a lot, feels to me like this is a city where the arts are on life support, really. And then you take a look at the initiatives that are happening in Melbourne, even in Queensland, and there's just so much vibrancy happening. And New South Wales just felt like it was this amazing, creative, talented, successful industry that was just being beaten down bit by bit by bit until the point where it felt like you were just gasping for any little thing. And so it was hard to actually feel creative in such a way here. But now I'm starting to see people are getting excited again. People are starting to feel creative. I'm seeing more and more plays popping up, short film festivals, and I'm starting to see a spark in people's eyes again. And it's making me truly excited for what's just around the corner. And it's not just
wow.
because there is more support. Yes, I mean, take a look at what the incentives that are bringing. I think we just got the new Planet of the Apes coming to New South Wales now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe that's not much happening for local actors, maybe local extras, maybe the occasional actor who's already quite well known, and mainly the crew. There's going to be a lot of work. Maybe there's not a lot of work for you and I, but what there is out there right now is there's excitement for the arts. So that people are talking about it again. It's in the newspapers. Your average person is saying, well, we've got X, Y, and Z, and there's excitement happening, which means at some point, somewhere along the way, there's investment happening. No, there's emotional investment, even if there's not much financial investment, but hopefully there's some financial investment because that is what's needed in order for us to succeed as an industry.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because the past couple of years, of course, during both lockdowns, of course, I tend to practice some monologues and scripts just to keep my creative juices going. And
Good on you.
yeah, yeah, because Mr. Lee just told me, but I had a ton of self tapes as well. But
Mm.
before we get into the self tape topic, let's go on to that further. But like I like to ask, if you had an inspiration right now, who to keep you going, like which actor or actors actually inspire you to become a better actor and become more successful?
I must say, funnily enough, the actors that I used to find inspiring, I'm not driven by them anymore. But the one that is has got me sort of interested is what's happening with Brendan Fraser. Because Fraser, in a lot of ways, he was a favorite of mine when I was younger, but I never really saw him as a great actor, even though he did do great parts. He was a fun actor. I always knew that when I went to see a Fraser film, I'd just have a bit of fun. Even if the film was terrible, he was generally pretty good. And then the way he just disappeared, and then
Mm.
you find out like all the tragedy of his life, of the injuries, the you name it, and he spent sort of 10 years. Not, I wouldn't say floundering. The guy's still a successful actor, but he comes back. He's put on a lot of weight. He looks very different, but the talent is still there. And
Mm.
he's starting to get all these accolades for his film The Whale, which I can't wait to see. And on top of that, there's a lot. It's very different now for him in the career. The original career was when he was younger, very PR agency driven. That you had magazines where you on the cover of the magazine, you had marketing agencies, you had all of this. Whereas now his new resurgence seems to be driven through social media, and the fact that everybody keeps saying that he's a nice guy, and these people that were his fans when they were kids are now driving this new momentum, saying how much they love him and da da da, and so on and so forth. And so that for me right now I find quite inspiring because myself, I'm an actor who has gained a lot of weight due to injuries over the years. I'm someone who is very different now to when I first got into the industry, and so it's really nice to see such success. Of course, he had success in his younger 20s, which is very different, but I do like to see people succeed who maybe were written off.
Mm.
Maybe it's a little too close to home.
True that, but you know what? It is inspiring because it
Mm,
proves to show that as long as you believe in yourself, you can be successful, and as long as you believe yourself, after a few hiccups and setbacks, you can still get back on the horse. But it may
mm.
take time, but as long as you don't give up the vision, because well, I'm good on him for doing that. And
Yes.
yeah, it's just one of I haven't read much into his story, but like I've read a little bit, like what you said. He had some
Mm,
personal issues, health issues, yada yada yada. He's not nowhere near that heartthrob that he used to be, but now he's a different type of inspiration,
mm,
because he's one of those guys who are genuine, seemingly genuine,
mm,
but at the same time, like his genuine nature is
mm.
helping him get back on track. But yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
cool. Well,
yeah, I'd
that's
like that.
nice. Yep, that's a nice inspiration there, boss. And let's talk about like your career as a whole. What is your biggest accomplishment
Ah,
today,
ah,
or what you feel like is your favorite acting gig you've done, whether it's on stage, or on film, or presenting? What is it, boss?
I actually think, for me, my favorite that keeps popping my head was a stage play I did. God, I can't. It's got to be nearly 20 years ago now, where I went to a community theater audition for the play Chicago, not the
Oh,
musical, the play, which
not a
was
play.
written.
Yep.
Or the musical was based on the play, or rather the book, I believe. Uh, and I walked in, I did my audition. I didn't really know it all that well. I knew the musical, I didn't know the play. And then gave me a call back and asked me to read for a certain character, a character I had no idea about, Jake. And I said okay. And they gave me the pages on the day. It was a cold read, and I walked into the audition room and I read for Jake. I just had, I think, 2 pages of dialogue working with another actor, and I just put in all my energy and creativity and just took it from what that just those 2 pages told me about that character and just the way he spoke. And I created something. And I got the part. And I thought, okay, great. And then I got the play, the full play, and I sat down and I started reading this full play. And I kept reading, and I kept reading, and there's Jake, and there's Jake, and there's Jake. And I suddenly realized Jake is one of the main characters. And to that stage, I'd always been bit part, small part, chorus, never really main character. And that was an amazing moment to see that, to feel that. And I worked really hard. I never worked as hard on another character like I did Jake, because the time period that it was set in was the 40s, 50s. So I sat down and I researched all the equipment that Jake would use, his pencils, his pencil sharpener, the type of hat that he would have, and I just let myself play with this character. And it was the first time that I had to put on an American accent, so I really worked on that. And I just remember that play, every night before I went on, I started that play with a monologue. And it started with me every night. Massive monologue. And I had to pretend to be on a phone, spotlight on me. The rest of the play is dark, and Jake speaks. And every night, just before that moment, I was so nervous. I felt those butterflies. I still feel them right now, just thinking about that moment. And knowing every night, at the end of that play, spotlight went down. I had to hit my mark. It was a pin light right on my face. And I ended the play with, that's Chicago, And then light goes down. So the play started with me, the play ended with me, and the overall experience of working with this amazing actress and amazing actors all around me, and I was able to learn so much from it. That is my proudest moment, that play, because of how much I learned, how it really gave me the ability to show what I could do, with the amount of nuances that this character had, where he had to be a swindler, he had to be a caring person for real, because he really did care about what happened to Roxy. He had to be a used car salesman. He had to be a broad range of things. And then at moments that weren't in the play, I got to show his tender side a little bit. And I think I learned the most from that character about my style of acting and who I was as an actor. And I carried that through with me the whole time. In fact, I kept drawing on that character every time I was teaching with you guys. I'd always go back to the various things that happened on that stage when I was walking the floorboards. And I was able to talk to you guys about that feeling of knowing when the audience is with you, of knowing when the audience is bored, of knowing when you're just hitting it and everything is working, versus when you're struggling and you feel like, hey, we're all just a little bit out of step from each other, as well as finding the depth within each line, and acting is not just acting. Acting is reacting. Acting is acting between the lines. You do not want to say, that's my line and I'm just going to wait for the next line. No, you are in character the whole time. And all of that came from this character, Jake. So yeah, I've
Awesome.
given you another monologue.
I love it. I love these monologues. I'm just listening. It's as if I'm listening to another podcast here. I'm just listening.
Oh, this is your podcast, and I'm just going to take it over. Sorry.
Well, this is your time to shine, because like when it comes to these episodes, the guests like yourself, this is about you guys. It's not about me. So I could actually help you guys get some exposure on social media, YouTube, and yada yada. But I like that, because that sounds like that was the game changer for you. That's what actually ignited your passion even more.
Yeah. Look, it was the start of it all. And it wasn't that long afterwards that John Clare offered me the chance to be a teacher at Sydney Talent Company. Um, and that I really began to learn more from teaching, actually. So it was Jake was the big one that taught me about how to be the actor that I am, and then teaching for that many years taught me about the art and the craft itself to really dig deep. And also I learned so much from you guys. Like, I know you claim that I'm the coach and all that, but you have no idea how much I learned from just working with you guys, and able to break apart a scene in such it's to its minutest details. Something that I thought I knew, but I really didn't know until I had to see it through your eyes, so to speak, and try and figure out how we could break it apart in a way that you understood. And it was magical, honestly.
I can agree to that. Like, because me being a fitness coach myself, I've learned a lot more coaching individuals because everybody's got a different fitness journey, fitness levels, what their
Yes.
background is with exercise. But even though that's not acting, we're talking about, I can relate to the whole learning as a coach.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, you're dealing with people. You're dealing with their experiences. So yeah, I think you can. I can reckon you can relate quite easily.
Oh,
I got
big
tongue
time,
tied
yeah.
there for a second.
But that's the thing, eh? Because if someone asked me to be like an acting coach to them, I wouldn't know how to do it because it's like I'm not as qualified as you or Mr. Lee or like Sam Hath, the guy who I think. But it is what it is because like I'm going to tell them, hey, look, I'm go to Daniel, go to Sam, go to John Clare, or go to other coaches who may be able to help you out even better than I could because I can only speak based on experience rather than actual qualification. Yeah, but experience is the best teacher, but qualifications is a must, including in this field, in my opinion. But yeah, so one of the things I've learned from you is that yeah, just like being in the moment, just not to think about it, not to act, just to react. Like if you say, "Hey, how are you?" It's like, "Oh, hey, I'm good, coach. How are you?" I'm reacting to that. So,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things. And what I like about it is like you bring an element of fun to your one-on-one coaching, like you and I were preparing for our Broken Badge, or even the group classes with a few other guys and
Mm.
girls and stuff like that. I think there's only a few of us who are actively acting now who you've been coaching, right? I mean, we can name
Yeah.
their names.
I'm not sure who. I'm not sure about it. I do know that I got, there's a couple of students who contacted me, and the thing that really I found quite beautiful about it was, yes, they're not in acting anymore, but they took the lessons from that class and used it in their careers now. So they
Mm,
find that they are able to, let's say, actually hold their own against the company CEO because they're able to improvise and they're able to really think their way around whatever the CEO is saying. And they're also able to act braver than how they're feeling. Maybe they're inside, they're really scared, they're quivering, but that's not showing on the outside. Instead, they're showing confidence and they're showing the ability to actually talk succinctly, clearly, use their articulation, as I've always said, being able to
yeah.
fully form the words, drive the energy all the way to the end of the sentence, and really, it's helped them throughout their careers, their chosen careers, even if their chosen career is not acting. I've seen a couple of people on ads recently, uh, and that always makes me smile when I see my students in an ad, because I just not only is it's nice to see them again, but it's also nice to know that feeling. I understand that feeling that they're going through of, oh my God, I'm on TV, I'm on the big screen, I'm on whatever, and it may be just you're on TV for a second or two, but the camera's on you, and you've got something really good on your CV now to say, hey, I can actually act professionally. So,
Mm.
and it does open doors for you to have something that you can put on your show reel like that, even if you got no lines.
Yeah, that's right. Because, like, with the articulation bit, I mean, that's one of the things that I learned from you the most in the very first time that I got to be part of your acting class in Balcombe Hills. So, because one time I just wasn't speaking so clearly, and you encouraged me, okay, just say that again, but with more articulation and meaning. And then since then, I'm usually aware of that. Like, am I practicing my monologue or my scripts, or my filming with my self tapes, or being on set on the actual day, being articulate enough and thanks to you, just like it's helping me be aware of that.
Well,
So It's
I'm
just
glad you took that lesson. Well done. As I say, there's no point in talking to an audience if they can't understand you.
that's right. I mean, because if I don't sound articulate enough, or if you don't sound articulate enough while you're actually performing, whether in a self tape or in actual stage or a filming of the day,
Yeah,
how is the audience going to understand what we're coming from, the context of the
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, audio is just as important as visual. And I think there is a creative choice that you can make to be less articulate, but I still I do remember I had a character where partway through the rehearsal I suddenly realized that I was lisping. The character had developed a lisp, and it had just slid into the character, and I needed to make sure that even as I was lisping and telling everybody how much I loved them and they're just so sweet, that they still needed to be able to understand everything that I was saying. So therefore my articulation and my projection needed to change around this voice, and it's something where I needed the audience to understand just how lecherous this character was, and in order to understand how lecherous, they had to hear me as well as see what he was doing.
Right. Was that a Shakespeare monologue when you were lisping? Just think, because it sounded Shakespearean.
Shakespearean. I wish, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, I guess.
That sounded familiar because I think it reminds me of some random Simpsons character, not one of the dominant
Oh,
ones. Yeah, that sounded familiar. I mean,
it
that
it does come across as a little Mr. Burns, doesn't it? I suppose, but he doesn't have a lisp.
yeah, it does.
Excellent. Yes,
Excellent. No, no, but
excellent.
it didn't sound like Mr. Burns per se, but some one of those
Oh.
featured characters for like one episode or two episodes.
Oh,
Yeah.
look, yeah. Make sure that it's. Was it from your lips to God's ears? Yes, let's do that.
It is what it is, boss. But you know what? I had a good time just like, you're listening to that. I couldn't, I mean, I was kind of laughing, but I was just like, oh man, that sounds so familiar. Yeah. But
No, I'm sorry to say, no, that was all just from my twisted mind.
I would say that's creative more than twisted, right?
Yeah, you're right. My creative mind. We'll go with that.
Yes, exactly. See, there we go. All right, you're going to be the director of my next short film then, yeah? But yeah. So when it comes to coaching actors like myself, what gives you pleasure? So like aside from seeing us on TV or doing us like watching us on stage or just like watching like the short films, the passion projects, what other kick do you get out of coaching actors like myself?
Are you meaning today, or are you meaning in the past, or both?
A bit of both.
Okay. I guess in the past, I'll start with the past. What it was the community that we had built. Uh, there were certain actors who turned up every term, and we'd worked out a rapport, and we'd worked out how to. It wasn't so much just an acting class, it was a place to hang out and feel safe. I always said that this was the room where you had to try whatever you wanted to try with your talent, your acting, and it was safe. Nobody would ridicule you. Nobody would laugh at you because you needed to feel like you could do this. And the majority of people were great like that. Not always, there was occasional people where you had to tell the you not you didn't have to tell them, but you had to convince them that this was a space where actors could try things that they'd never tried before. Because how can you bring something into a new character and be brilliant if you hadn't experienced that moment, that emotion, in that way of saying that line? And so for me, it became more about it was just a really lovely way to escape with a bunch of creative people and not only see how they've improved week on week, but also to just hang out with a bunch of people that were just so friendly and fun.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's what drove me a lot of the time was when I'd get there, the people and being amongst all this creativity and fun. I loved it. And
Oh, yeah.
these days, look, I don't do much coaching today because I've stepped back from that and I'm chasing the acting more. So if I'm hanging out with other actors, we're on a level. I'm not a coach, and they're my student. With actors that are working together, and I really like that. I really like that, and I don't ever presume to teach another actor because that's not what I'm there for. I'm there to do my job. I'm there to do my character, and trust that they can do the same. However, like a couple little coaching sessions that I've done with you, Miguel, has been the pleasure that I get out of that is seeing how you've interpreted a character a certain way, and you see a script a certain way, and I watch you do the reads, and then we work about it and we delve deeper, finding what we can out of the character, and to see from the first read to the final read how big a difference that makes. And also, it's interesting for you to go away. You'll do a rehearsal. I'm not there, obviously. And then you'll come back and you'll say, oh, the other actor saw X, Y, and Z. They were uncomfortable with this. So, and then we'd just tweak. We'd work. We'd pull. And that was creatively engaging for me as well, if that makes any sense.
That makes a lot of sense because remember, like the way you helped me develop my character as Mark in Broken Badge, it was a very sinister character, and that's why I needed help because how am I going to play a sinister character when I don't think I'm a sinister person in real life? So I hope not. But
Well, no, you're a very sincere person, and that was why it was, in a way, it was actually quite rewarding for you to come back and say, the actress felt rather uncomfortable about this particular sequence, and I was like, well, okay, let's pull it back, but it means we've cracked this because on screen you are gonna be terrifying. If you were terrifying in rehearsals to the poor actress, who I sincerely apologize to, but it meant that we were doing our job right.
that's right. Yeah. Well, I think that's me who owes her an apology. You did nothing wrong. I'm the one who's making her feel uncomfortable during the rehearsal. Of course, nothing sleazy about it. But there were just a few things. It's just that I think it's just the swearing words and stuff like that that I just improv or ad libbed that she wasn't comfortable with. Yeah, because she didn't expect that. But yeah. Look, I respect that because at the end of the day, I want her to work well with me. And if she's comfortable enough to keep working with me, we're both gonna have fun during the day.
And everybody needs to feel safe on a set, which is why it's interesting that if you ad-libbed out of the blue and she was uncomfortable with something, it's like, well, next time hey, I'm thinking I'm going to be working a little bit more blue with this character this time, so are you comfortable with that? Bring it up front.
That's right. Yeah, because remember, like her character's boyfriend in the original script that was Steven, and she said, "No, I don't like the name Steven." I didn't ask why. Maybe she just had an ex-boyfriend who just, that had a bad experience. Who's an ex-boyfriend of hers whose name's Steven. I didn't ask why. That's her business. All right, let's change the name to Ryan. Then that's one of the things that we altered. Okay, then she was not comfortable with that. So,
Isn't that interesting? That yeah. Well, look, it just shows the power in words, and what's the word I'm looking for? In association. So maybe it was an ex-boyfriend, maybe it was a current boyfriend, but either way, how the change from Stephen to Ryan allowed her to feel not only more comfortable but able to get into the scene because she wasn't having to deal with her real life so much.
that's
So,
right. Yeah.
and that's fascinating for actors to be able to do that. I know if I were to go into a scene and there was a name there that was so closely associated to my real life, I'd find that uncomfortable today, even now, I would say, and I'd just have to find a workaround.
That's right. Yeah, because one thing at least she was actually open to communicating with that because some people
Yeah.
could be very shy because I think it's also because she's a mature woman. She was already in her early 30s, and at that age, women are
But
already very mature, and compared to 31-year-old men who
let's
not so
not
mature.
generalize too much here. But I would say the thing is, it doesn't matter what age you are. Something can hit you out of the blue that you maybe feel uncomfortable about with a particular scene. And the ability, I don't know. When I did when I did my acting course, we weren't given that choice. You had to do it. You were there for a job. You were there for a reason, and you had to work around it. The ability now, the fact that you were willing to change the name is great. It's actually a testament to you. And what is the change of a name? It's really nothing, okay? But it meant everything to her, and I think the kindness, being kind to your actor and your fellow actor is paramount to this industry, and it's paramount to people staying in the industry. There's too many awful stories, really.
Yeah, yeah, just like any other industry out there. Sadly, it's humanity that is the world we live in. But yeah, so and that's a good thing about the script because, like, Sam Haft, my other acting coach, he did express his concern because, like, because it's the script is like to harass the woman and stuff like that,
Mm,
and then he did express his concern with that. I said, look, I mean, I was taking that into consideration, but when I put the brief on in a Facebook Actors page, which is Sydney Actors Association.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and surprisingly, six, seven, or eight girls actually expressed their interest. But I told them before I audition you, read the script because if you feel uncomfortable playing this role or this will make you feel traumatized in any way, you don't need to audition. But you know what? All six, seven, or eight girls said, "Oh, I read the script. It's creepy, but I'd love to play this and put in my show reel." And
Yeah.
then I was like, wow, oh, that's awesome then. And then I don't see any problem with continuing with the project.
Mm.
And yet, all girls were just like, I'd love to show this in my show reel because they want to show that vulnerable side. And of course, nobody wants to go through something like that in real life, but they want to showcase that vulnerable side, like as if
Well,
like
I
they're
mean, and
like
that
in
was it
danger.
was a good decision of them to really, well, A, good decision of you to tell them to read the script first. B, also, yes, it would look great in their show reel because there is a lot of horror shot around Sydney. So, I mean, Wolf Creek really set the scene for the Australia and low budget horror films. So the ability to have a character like that being menaced in such a way is a good thing on your CV. I don't know that anybody need. How do I put this? I think to express concern about a script being menacing is to limit yourself and limit the other actors around you,
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, yes, you don't want anyone to feel you don't want anyone to feel that way for real. But you being professional and saying, this is a professional scene, this is for a show reel, there is no other menacing going on when the camera's not rolling. But once the camera's rolling, you're there to do a job, and so are they. And their job, maybe they're not getting paid for it at that point, or maybe you're not getting paid for it, but the payment at the end is to have something worthy to put on your show reel, because that
Yeah.
is really hard to get that. I mean, I certainly was when I started acting. There was no way I could film something myself. It was far too expensive. The only way you could get a proper, decent show reel is to actually successfully get the professional acting job. And then hope and bug them and hope that they will give you a DVD or VHS of your work, and then you had to figure out, how do I get this onto a show reel? Whereas these days, like, you take your phone, take your mobile phone, it's got an amazing camera on it, and a lot of them have good microphones, but you can also buy this microphone attachment for $50. Put it up, film something, edit it on your phone if you need to, and there's your show reel in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, there's more to it. You're talking lighting, you're talking a setting, you're talking finding a good script, but you have that ability in your pocket, in your phone these days, and you have that, and a lot of people have the willingness to actually do something about it, which is great. But to go back to my original point is the project should speak for itself. And
Mm.
if you've said, yes, this is, I want you to read it, understand that there is some menacing scenes, I don't want people to feel uncomfortable, you've covered all your bases and you've done what's required of you. Well done.
Of course, yeah. Look, I appreciate that. It's just, yeah, consideration because it's not just my project anymore, or Samantha's project as well. So
Mm.
because yeah, because I almost chose somebody else, but my gut feeling said I think this is the right girl, and then I
And
just couldn't deny it. Yeah.
how did you feel about the end product?
Oh, it was awesome. But you know
But
what? It was, look, I mean, it was actually good working with her overall. But what actually made the scene even more interesting is because, like, on set, like, we had a bit of a disagreement, and then the tension was like during that next few takes, the tension was
mm,
legitimate instead of just pretending. So, and then afterwards, it's just like, all right, cool. We didn't apologize to each other, but now we actually acknowledge each other, saying, "Hey, look, see, no, we had a disagreement just then. Instead of calling each other an effing idiot or whatnot, we just put it into our performance instead." So and that's when I wouldn't say I wanted to hurt it, but I just like kind of
yeah,
unleashed it.
it helped you get in touch with the anger that is deep within. Yes, I
That's
get it.
right.
Look,
Yeah.
and
So
passions will erupt on set. I mean, there will be points where actors at some point you learn about status, and I'm classically trained, so for
mhm.
me, understanding when the other character has status and then when my character has status is good because it balances out a script and it works really well because it keeps the audience interested. But then you will come across other actors who believe that they need to have the status the whole time, or that if you want that status, you have to take it from them, and that is a perfectly legitimate way to do it. But I find that when I've come across those sort of actors, if my character wants to take the status from them by elevating emotion and anger, it turns my character into something that I don't want that character to be. Becomes My character becomes a darker character, almost a villain, and if I'm playing a comedy, I find that a lot of the time I have to just let that actor have the status of emotionally, and then flip the script so that I can once again get the status back without having to resort to tension, anger, or anything like that. You can. That's. I think a lot of people think about tension and status and anger as being what holds a scene, but a simple thing can flip it. So, be it if you're on stage, I do remember another actor kept elevating their emotions and to the point where their character was actually slapping my character quite a lot. And my character is supposed to be this fun, foppish sort of character, and I thought the only way my character could win here is to lose my temper and take it from them, and then we're not playing a comedy anymore. So instead, I let it happen that the final slap that this person did, I let my character spin around and react, and then step forward a little bit more slapsticky into further up the stage, so that I took the status from them because they were now further backstage from me. But that all had to come from experience and lots of rehearsal, where you find out who the other actor is that you're playing opposite.
That's a very good way of analyzing that.
Hmm.
I guess every single gig will actually teach you different things because you just
Yeah.
stated a few different gigs just then, and then seemed like every single one have actually just given you some kind of valuable lesson in
Yeah,
terms of being an actor, being on set, or just the way you carry yourself.
you're right. You're right, Miguel, and I do think I maybe I don't have the figure that I had when I first started acting, but I do believe through age and experience, I believe I'm a better actor now than I was back then, even though I worked a lot more back then. But I do believe as well it's due to the amount of work I did, due to the amount of teaching I did, especially, and then now the amount of life experience, having gone transitioned into the stage where I'm now auditioning for dad characters. I remember auditioning for a few dad characters before I had kids. And now I look back and I go, oh yeah, there was a reason I didn't get those roles. Because as I could imagine what it was like to be a dad, but now I actually know. I know about the sleep deprivation that you get when you've got a little baby. I know about the arguments you'll have because they don't like the food that they really loved 5 minutes ago, and all of that, and the how you just keep going no matter how exhausted you are because there's nobody else to look after them, and you're taking a look at your partner, your wife, and you both just got dark circles under your eyes. You're both so exhausted you can't talk to each other, but all right, it's my turn now, and you get up and you just do it, whatever's required. So now, if I audition for the character of a dad, it's just something that just is already there. I'm not putting on a character. I'm being me, and I think that's being a lot more authentic these days. I'm feeling that I'm putting a lot more of myself into characters these days than I used to. I used to design the character like an exoskeleton that I would put on and then fill it out as I've learnt. But these days, now, if I need to play a role, I could say, actually, yeah, I've done X, Y, and Z. Let's just go here, 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 here. Boom, here's the character, and then I'm able to experiment a lot more in rehearsal and find a lot more depth.
That's a good point of doing that because, like, experience as well. Like, playing the dad role, it's more like your life experience. You barely have to act or don't have to act. You can just react the way you reacted when you had to deal with your kids when they were that age.
Yes.
So and it
Yeah,
makes
and
it more authentic. Yeah.
yeah, I mean we're talking commercials here a lot of the time. I think if you're talking TV series, if you're talking theater again, movies, it's a different art form.
Hmm.
Uh, so I can get away with slapping together a dad character for a commercial because you learn the type of commercial that's needed. So you say, okay, this one they're going for a little bit more serious. They're going for a lot more comedy. They're going for stylized, and you can pivot your style to what's required for that. But when you're talking a movie or a TV series, you don't know what style they're going for, really. You'll get one page where you've got one little bit of dialogue in there, and you'll have a little bit of stage direction, and then you'll have a little character breakdown. But you're like, okay, are they more realistic? Are they more 90s style, which was a bit more over the top? Are they going for dark and gritty, or is it rom com? Sometimes you don't know. So I've been deciding just go for real a lot of the time. Go for real, and then if they need you to go bigger, you can go bigger. Or if I'm sending in an audition, I always try to do three takes: one that's very real, one that's over the top, and one that's a blend of the two. And so far, that seems to be working. Not all the time, but I will often get a call back, which is great, and then I can talk to the director and figure out what it is that they're trying to do, and we go from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I'm similar as well with my self tapes these days. I end up like just taking a few tapes just because like what I think may be ideal may not be ideal to what they're looking for. So in case like if you had two or three different takes, one of them could be the right ideal take that they're looking for that context of that scene.
Yeah,
So
and a
yeah, it
lot of
is
the
what it
time you
is.
have no power over what it is they see. It's a lot of the time it's about the look as well, and I will see the ads on air and I'll go, okay, yeah, no, I didn't stand a chance because my look is not what matches everything there, but I was still given a chance to get in that door, and I'm very happy for that. And you begin to know who the casting agents are that keep calling you back, in which case you then go, okay, these people have called me back a few times, which means they're interested in what I do. And so you just keep doing what you're doing, keep being you, keep being genuine, and at some point something happens, and you land something that just
That's
makes you
right.
feel on top of the world.
Yeah, when you least expect it. Yeah, because remember in Broken Badge, like the ideal girl that I had in mind was a blonde girl because that's my favorite type of girl. I like blonde girls, and I had this Russian girl. Like I almost chose her, but part of me is just saying, oh look, I mean maybe there's somebody else better for this role. But then when I got to meet Samantha, and then I couldn't deny it. It's like, no, she's not blonde, but I think this is her because this is what my gut feeling is talking to me. It's just like, no, she's the right girl for this role, and I gave her the role, and I didn't regret it. So my point is that you may not be that ideal look that they're looking for the role, but you never know. But if they see you, it's like, no, actually, no, this is the kind of guy that we want. Of course, that doesn't happen very often, but that could happen. There's a small chance that could still happen, in my opinion.
No, you're right. Look, aside from the superficiality of choosing a blonde all the time, Miguel, that you are correct. Um, every role that I've gotten that has meant something to me in my life in some way has been because there was a director there who looked at me and said, "There's something there. He's not what the brief says, but there's something." And because of that something, they've given me a little bit more freedom to go ahead and improvise. And I believe more than anything that that's what's helped me personally. It's not for everybody, but personally, for my ability to be able to go into an audition, have them throw something at me, and me just take whatever it is, turn it around, and ad lib back in a way that suits not only the character but the style that they're after, and me, suits my sense of humor, my look, has been the game changer. I don't walk into an audition and they go, "Yes, this guy is right." I never have. But I can walk into an audition and know, okay, I can handle this being thrown at me. Because, I guess, because my acting teacher really concentrated a lot on improvisation. We had to do a lot of that. And you quickly learned in theater as well that you needed to improvise and improvise fast when something went wrong on stage. And I think it just sort of became second nature. And that's something I sort of passed on to all of you guys, because all of you people, I should say, because that was I've always felt it's so important to be able to ad lib, improvise, whatever you need to do in order to stand out.
That's a good point. Yeah, because well, when it comes to theater, there's no cut from the top. You just have to keep going. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, just like in an actual boxing match or UFC match, you make a mistake if you get back up, just get back up. So
Yeah.
that's the
And
way I
they.
look at it and stuff. Yeah, but look, one last thing I would like to talk about before we conclude, self-tape culture, of course.
Mm,
I do like I've learned to adapt into loving this because it's not something that was ideal for me in the beginning
mm,
because like I miss going to the casting director's office,
mm,
and so I could actually interact with other actors, and then the casting director could actually direct me and guide me into performing the actual scene as best as I can. But
mm.
nowadays, we can't. I mean, no matter what happens, we can't. It's out of our control as actors. But we just have to learn to adapt into the self-tape culture. So, what has self-tape culture and the phase actually taught you the most as an actor yourself?
It's taught me that I don't really want to go back into a casting agency. I love it. I absolutely love it. So the main thing I did for the self taping is I bought a backdrop. So just simple little cheap C stands that with a backdrop curtain, so that I've always got a consistent curtain behind me, which I never iron, so it's always full of wrinkles. And then I got some cheap LED lights off of Amazon, and the setup is now very quick, whereas before you always had to push furniture around. You had to, make sure that the back wall was right, that there was no mess around. Now it's like, okay, we've got dirty dishes here. Let's just place that backdrop up, and we're good to go. And the other great thing is that my beautiful wife is fantastic at helping me keep calm. I still get nervous. I still, if I'm tired and I'm exhausted for the day, and she's my camera operator, she will stand there and say, "Just take a breath, calm down, and remember when you did this, and da da da." And she helps get me into the right frame of mind. She will notice things in the script that maybe I didn't notice, and I will try it a way that she suggested, because I've learned that I'm not always right. I've got to trust what other people see as well.
Mm.
And it just puts me at ease, and it gives us something to do together. She'll read the opposite lines to me, and it's really a lovely moment for me. So there's a personal moment. The other thing I've actually really learned from self-tape culture, if you take away the really nice sort of personal side of things, is that edit it in the can. Okay? Have whoever it is that's filming you, have them start and stop a beat or two after you've finished, so that you don't have to sit there and cut and change and adjust volume levels and adjust lighting, all of that sort of stuff. What I do now is, okay, 3 takes, done. Throw it onto the computer. Naming conventions. Make sure you name it right. Your name has to be there right at the front so they can easily find you. The takes, take 1, 2, and 3. Have it in the name. Have it the character that you are auditioning for. Read what they say. Some of them will say, you need to name it this way. Blah, 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 blah. And so I've got that. I make sure that that is down pat. And always use this wonderful little software called Handbrake.
Handbrake, yeah.
So Handbrake, throw all your files into Handbrake. It will take a 40 megabyte file. Like I film everything in 1080p. So it'll take a 40 megabyte file and compress it down to 4 megabytes. And it looks as good as if it was uncompressed. And then it's a very quick upload. People will thank you in the end, because it's just so easy. Know your technical side of things. Know that the compression algorithm that you're using will rename the file from .mp4 to something else, but you can always rename it to .mov, and that works everywhere. Don't be afraid of that. I think know that if you need to edit something, that you can get free software like DaVinci Resolve, but on top of that, if you're using a Windows machine, there's a free editor on the Windows machine. There's a free editor on Macs. You gotta know what you're doing when on behind the camera as well as in front, and quite frankly, you can learn that very simply with just finding a few videos online or talking to a few friends who know. I had one cinematographer friend of mine who I did one audition with, and he set up, he had a studio, which I was very lucky to actually watch him work, and he pointed out where he put his lights in order to help make me have a little bit more of a jawline instead being the bigger person that I am. He also pointed out the type of microphones he likes to use so that the sound quality is really clear. Which is just that might be a little bit out of my range, having a quality microphone. But if you have that ability, sound is so important. I've got a good phone with good microphones. If your phone does not have great sound quality, get yourself an attachment microphone. You can get a lot of these off Amazon for like $50, which is a big amount of money for some people, but worth it if you manage to land an ad that gives you $1,000 or more, you know? So it's just, if we're moving to that sort of culture and you like it, make sure you have the equipment to back yourself up. Give yourself the best chance you can. Now,
Right.
I hope that made sense, because I was rambling a lot, I think.
No, that makes a lot. That's very in depth, and that's why I'm enjoying just listening, because you have a good point. I mean, for me, I'm learning. I've just started learning how to edit, especially not just with this podcast, but I'm gonna learn how to edit my own US dialect reel as well sometime soon.
Yes,
So
it's so important.
yes, yep,
The,
and then yeah, the best is yet to come, no matter what. But the thing is, actors have to learn how to adapt, not just on set, but in self-tape culture or going to the back to the casting director. It doesn't matter. It's beyond our control. We have to learn how to adapt, because it's beyond our control since then. And you have to just try to have fun either way, because the journey is going to be long, and the journey is just only going to fly by if you enjoy it, rather than just being hard on yourself. Because I'm similar as well. I can be doing self tape, and all of a sudden, I forget I stumble with the dialogue, and all of a
yes.
sudden I start cursing, and then whoever's behind the camera, whether it's like one of my workmates at the gym or one of my housemates at home, like, calm down, take a few deep breaths, and I'm like, oh crap. So
It's it's really important to have that people around you for that. I've done a few self tapes as well where I've pressed the record, run in front of the camera, done the scene, come back, press the pause, then had to watch it back and find that the camera had shifted so that half my head was cut off, and then the small frustrations begin to mount up. So if you have the ability to have someone there behind the camera, it doesn't just halve the work; it makes the work 10 times more enjoyable. Especially if they've got your back and if they know you as a friend and a person, it's so important. You can do it by yourself, totally by yourself. You can, but it will never. For myself, it has never worked out as well as when I've got someone behind the camera to walk me through the little irritations. Because the little irritations, they show up on camera, and they make the character less sincere and truthful.
That's right. That's right. That's why, like, it's important. Like, I myself, like, I take a few deep breaths before I get back into character mode, so I can clear my head. You know, or just like get a brick wall and just slam it a little bit so the frustration comes out. You know, but it's the brick wall.
Yes.
It's a brick wall. I'm more likely to break my hand than break the brick wall.
Yeah. I don't have a brick wall around, and I'm terrible at patching holes, so I gotta I gotta be careful when I'm doing my little shadow punching.
But yes, look. Any closing thoughts for other actors who are listening to this, Daniel?
Closing thoughts.
Would you like to give any encouragement to actors who are struggling, or just actors who just feel like they're giving up? What's your message to them?
Look, if you're struggling, if you feel like giving up, I guess when you take a look at, you're very good at boxing analogies, and I'm going to steal one of those right now, is that it's never wrong to take the 8 count. So I really felt for a while there that I had been knocked down, and I was out of the acting game, and I was done. And I really tried hard not to think about it, and I tried my best to put it behind me. But now I realized I was just taking the 8 count. So I back up. I'm looking at it. I realize that it's a long game, as you say. So right now I still have a very young son, so I don't have a lot of time to go out there and do the acting. But I do know that there's going to come a time when I'm going to have that chance again to pursue it to the full extent of the energy that I have towards it. And I'm ready for that. And that's because I took the 8 count. There is nothing wrong with taking a moment and feeling like, all right, I'm creatively bankrupt right now. The well is dry. I just don't have it in me. You know what you have in you? You have your life. You have the ability to go out and live your life, do what you need to feel a bit more like yourself, like your life is a bit more under control. Okay? Are you creatively bankrupt because you're just not getting any sleep because you are so busy? Guess what? You need sleep. Maybe in a month you'll be ready for more. Maybe like me, it'll take 10 years. Whatever it is, if you've got it in you and you feel like this is what you're meant to do, it'll come back no matter what.
Amen.
You don't have a choice in the matter. It'll be there. And I just think that there is nothing wrong with just feeling like I can't do this right now, but I can later on.
Back, yeah. Take a step back. Yeah, it's like what you said. It's just like we didn't choose acting. Acting chose us. That's what it feels like.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it. Did I say that? Oh, wow. No.
Just along those words, though. So I reworded it for you.
I was about to say that sounds way too coherent for me, but yes, that's you've summed it up perfectly. We didn't choose it; it chose us. Well done.
Amen to that. Yep. Look, pleasure in having you on board again, Daniel Sassen. So your time is greatly appreciated as always. I enjoy our conversations like this, or in person, or over the phone, or messenger when we're practicing my dialogue. Thank you so much for being a good inspiration and a good mentor for me and other actors who you mentored over the past. It's greatly appreciated.
Thanks. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me here. It's been a pleasure in the past and right now in the present. You
Sure.
take care.
And yeah, you too. And before we conclude, guys,
Mm-hmm.
if you're watching this on YouTube, please press the like and subscribe button. It'll be greatly appreciated. Yeah. Until the next episode, ladies and gents, adios, everybody.
Bye.